This video is a discussion on the powers of Congress. The powers of Congress is primarily legislative in character. Its powers to legislate is vested in both houses as a singular unit, no? Meaning it cannot be possible that laws can be enacted if the bill have not been uh, heard in three separate readings in both houses each. No, the power of legislation is essentially congressional, but the Constitution provides for the power of initiative and referendum for the people, because there are instances that Congress may neglect to prioritize a certain legislative endeavor. So it's or initiative. So it's the people who themselves can come together and propose laws. For example, we do not have any clear law defining political dynasties. Perhaps it could be because Congress may have no intention to make such a law defining what political dynasties are, despite the fact in the Declaration of Principles and State Policies, the fundamental law frowns upon political dynasties as defined by law. So law is required to definitely put a stop to the practice of patronizing in our uh, system of governance, yung political dynasties. No? But what constitutes political dynasties, it's yet unclear, because laws have yet to be created for it. No? So if Congress does not want to enact such laws, then the people through initiative can enact such laws. So again, the power to legislate is reserved for both chambers, meaning it cannot be exercised solely by the House of Representatives or the Senate. No? It's a joint endeavor. No? So when you speak of the legislative power, it is the power to enact any law. It's what we call the plenary powers to legislate. No? The general legislative power is a plenary in character. So meaning state legislature can make laws over all subjects, whether pertaining to persons or things within its territorial jurisdiction, either to introduce new laws or repeal the old unless prohibited expressly or by implication. There are certain laws that cannot be enacted anyways, but generally, laws must be the discretion of Congress. They have the power to determine what are to be regulated and what are to be provided for in legislation. Any power deemed to be legislative by usage or tradition is necessarily possessed by Congress. This power includes all subjects and extends to matters of general concern or common interest. This case of City of Davao versus RTC 12 is a classic example of the laws which Congress cannot enact, irrepealable laws, because irrepealable laws restrict the discretion and the plenary powers of succeeding Congresses. No? So that's why even if you have no provision in the Constitution prohibiting irrepealable laws, the fact that the congressional power is plenary would be sufficient to restrict such enactment of irrepealable laws. It would be a nauseous anathema to democratic principles for a legislative body to have the ability to bind the actions of future legislative bodies, considering that both assemblies are regarded with equal footing, exercising as they do the same plenary powers. Okay, so this case of Abbas Kida versus Senate says that a state legislature has the plenary lawmaking power over all subjects, whether pertaining to persons or things within its territorial jurisdiction, either to introduce new laws or repeal the old unless prohibited expressly or by implication. The same thing is being said. It cannot bind itself or its successors by enacting irrepealable laws. So there is the prohibition of restriction to the otherwise plenary powers of Congress. The restriction is again unless prohibited expressly or by implication. Okay, so that's a fact that there are there are limitations to the legislative discretion. So such function is constitutionally vested in and plenary to the Congress, to which is in without doubt, no. Yet the mere existence of the function does not mean that it is insusceptible to appreciable limitations. So these are some of the limitations. Una, the substantive limitations. In the Bill of Rights, we have provision saying no law or beginning with no law shall be passed. This means that the Bill of Rights is a restriction or provides restrictions for legislation on undue restrictions to civil liberties. In fact, if you look at Article 3, Section 2, no, the rights of the people to be secure in their persons, houses, papers, and effects against unreasonable searches and seizures shall be inviolable, meaning there is something to violate, no? There is something to breach, meaning that these rights, human rights, exist. But the Bill of Rights restrict legislation from overly encroaching on civil liberties and rights. In appropriations laws, we have regulations restricting appropriations laws, no? Okay. So you go to section 25 of Article 6, no, for that. That has some characteristics or parameters that Congress need to follow. These are the limitations of the taxing power. Taxation should be uniform, meaning taxes should be equally meted to those who are similarly situated. Okay, for similar products, for example, or goods, they are similarly taxed. For persons similarly situated, similar salaries, similar functions, perhaps, or similar professions, it should be equitable. Equitable is not equity. Equitable is proportionate justice, no? Taxation is equitable when it burdens, the burden falls on those who are better able to pay. Then you have progressive taxation, meaning the taxation goes up the higher your income is. That's why we have tax exemptions for those of the lower income. And taxation is for a public purpose. Due process and equal protection shall also be accorded people when taxation laws are implemented for them. Okay. Also, we remember that as far as non-stock, okay, non-profit educational institutions, they may be exempt from taxes and duties, no, for their revenues and assets. So they cannot also interfere with the Supreme Court in its jurisdiction. No? No law shall be passed increasing the appellate jurisdiction of the Supreme Court without its advice and concurrence. So they have to ask permission from the Supreme Court first. This case of Villavert versus Desierto, where the Ombudsman's Act increased the appellate power of the Supreme Court. Supreme Court said, no, it should be with our advice and concurrence. Title to royalty is not also allowed. So no law should be allowed granting title to royalty or nobility because we are a democracy and a republican at that. Okay. So being a republic, we are not governed by a king. So if you say that we should be governed by a monarchy, then that defeats the purpose or the rationale, the philosophy of what a republic is as embodied in the Constitution. While there are titles to royalty right now, it's not a political title, but it's more of uh, um, cultural, no? Cultural, but not political, no? This refers to practices, no? Not generally recognized or acknowledged socially uh, by the national community. No legal right or privilege are contingent upon the grant or possession of a title of nobility or royalty, and the Constitution expressly forbids the enactment of any law conferring such title. Substantive limitations, some are implied. First of the implied limitations is on the prohibition against the delegation of legislative powers. As a general rule, what has been delegated by the people to Congress cannot be redelegated by them. No? What has been delegated cannot be delegated as expressed in the Latin maxim, potestas delegate, non delegare potestas. The principle of non-delegation of powers is applicable to all the three major powers of government, meaning delegation of power may be possible for the judiciary, may be possible for Congress, it may also be possible for the executive branch. But what is most practiced is the delegation to the members of the congressional power, because there are executive powers which are delegated with the power to legislate. We also have executive authority granted to some offices of Congress. We also have judicial power where some offices have quasi-judicial powers, diba? Although they are not courts. So delegation of authority it's existing, but there are parameters for valid delegations, no? Exceptions. There are this rule for the non-delegation of legislative authority admits of recognized exceptions, no? The exceptions are seen in the fact that our society has activities that are so sophisticated and peculiar that Congress are not expected to know their details, no? They need to be attended to by those who know better the field of expertise. Okay, that's why we have delegation of legislative authority. So, but there are parameters, no? The delegation is valid if it is complete in itself and it fixes a standard. For example, rules and regulations by administrative agencies are valid delegations of rulemaking power or quasi-legislative power. They can promulgate implementing rules and regulations, no? Okay. So the examples are delegations to the president. Okay, the president may be given authority by Congress in emergency powers. Congress may by law authorize the president for a limited period and subject to such restrictions as it may prescribe to exercise congressional powers. Like during pandemics, for example, or national crisis, the president may release executive orders, no, to protect the public or public health, no, or public safety. In fact, this power of the president to legislate, though not provided for in the Constitution, for first, I mean, you look at Marcos versus Manglapus. Though the president is given the power of Congress to legislate, it has to wait for such a grant. But please understand that the president has residual powers, as mentioned in the case of Marcos versus Manglapus, where his powers are not limited to what the Constitution has to say, because the president may perform any act which would make him protect the welfare of the public. Okay. Taxing powers is also delegated to the president in Section 28, number 2, or paragraph 2 of Article 6. People also may be delegated this authority through initiative and referendum, which shall take this up separately in initiative and referendum. The local governments also in the enactment of ordinances can legislate. And also, aside from the derivative legislative power, the local governments through its legislative body can raise their own revenues, no? Sources of revenue. Quasi-legislative bodies, departments, they have quasi-legislative powers. They can make their own rules and regulations. For example, you can look at CHED or the DepEd. they issue circulars, no, memoranda to guide schools, for example. Even DNR, even other branches of government, they have quasi-legislative authorities, no? In recognition of the exigencies of the contemporary governance, in recognition of the exigencies that temporary governance must address, our legal system has recognized that the validity of subordinate legislation, meaning power of the administrative agencies to legislate. Maybe examples are internal rules and regulations, no? Or implementing rules and regulations, no? Because these offices fill in the gaps which Congress may have failed to provide in legislation. So if we are referring here to administrative issuances, the case of Dagan versus Philippine Racing Commission provides for the enumeration of the requisites in order for there to be a valid exercise of quasi-legislative powers, no? There's legislative issuances. The prohibition against the passage of irrepealable laws, we have already discussed this. Irrepealable laws cannot be passed by Congress, no? Now, on the next video, we proceed with the procedural limitations in the enactment of laws in Section 26, Article 6.